As we wrapped up week 12 of the NFL season, the NFL MVP race continues to get more tight as we head towards the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts with another impressive performance, leading the Philadelphia Eagles to a 10-1 record, currently making him the betting favorite to win this award. Patrick Mahomes leading the Kansas City Chiefs to the number 2 seed in the AFC, putting up remarkable numbers, won the MVP last year and the Super Bowl. He is currently in second to win this award, and tied for number 3, we have Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson. And the guy I'm really looking at right here is Dak Prescott in third to potentially win this award. Is it time to consider him as a possible threat to win this MVP award? Obviously, in the media, everybody loves to hate on the Cowboys, and especially Dak Prescott. He led the league in interceptions last year. They've gotten bounced early from the playoffs, and he hasn't looked the best. But ladies and gentlemen, it might finally be time to admit that Dak Prescott can get the Dallas Cowboys over the hump. Let's look at what he's doing so far through 11 weeks. Another dominant performance from this Cowboys squad on Turkey Day, beating the Commanders 45-10, an electric performance from Dak. Currently, he leads the NFL in passing touchdowns with 23. He's 5th in passing yards per game, and he's doing that all while completing 70% of his passes, which ranks 2nd in the NFL. He's 6th in passing yards per game and 5th in passing yards per attempt. And not to mention, he has the 2nd best QBR in the entire league. And a stat that he was majorly criticized for last season, his interceptions. He's only got 6 this season, and some notable names in front of him are guys like Josh Allen with 13 interceptions, Jalen Hurts with 10, Tua Tagovailoa with 10, Patrick Mahomes with 9, Jared Goff with 8, Trevor Lawrence with 7. I can keep going and going. Dak Prescott has not gotten enough credit for cutting down on his turnovers, and this is ultimately one of the reasons why this offense looks so good. They are the highest scoring team in the NFL, averaging 31.5 points per game, and that helps a lot when you have the 2nd best scoring defense, and of course the largest point differential in the entire NFL at 162. And I understand I've been rambling a lot about analytics and what the Cowboys are doing so well on paper, but I think a very important thing with analytics to look at is, are they reinforcing what we see with our eyes? I think they absolutely are. You can see the vast improvement on the offensive side of the ball for the Cowboys, and now we know how good their defense is, and they're making this team so dangerous. They're only allowing the 3rd fewest yards per game, the 2nd fewest passing yards per game, the 4th fewest points per game. They're allowing the 4th fewest completion percentage to quarterbacks. They're tied for the 3rd most interceptions in the NFL and tied for the 4th most sacks. Shout out Deron Bland for stepping up in a major way for Trayvon Diggs as he went down earlier this season, and he's done a phenomenal job replacing him. On Thanksgiving, Bland broke an NFL record, recording his 5th pick six, the most all-time. What an incredible accolade. Now, I just gave the Cowboys all their flowers, and I think the one major thing to look at here is, can they beat a great opponent? Now, I talked about this Cowboys cycle a little bit ago, but it always feels like starting from the offseason, the Cowboys go through this same cycle on a year-to-year basis. They start at the top where they have all of this hype, they have a good team, and everybody knows that they're going to get into the playoffs, win 11 games, and be a pretty solid team. And now what they'll do is they'll beat down on bad teams, some people will get excited, and then they play a really good team like the 49ers or the Eagles and get absolutely stomped. Now you have all of the media critics, you have all of these fans, you have all these haters on the internet who say that the Cowboys and Dak Prescott will never be able to get over the hump, and the alarms definitely start to sound. And then what they do after that is they'll normally beat down on more bad teams throughout the regular season, where they eventually play an Eagles or a 49ers type of team, and they lose that game, and the cycle continues on until where they eventually make it to the playoffs. They maybe win a game early on, and then they lose. Right now with the Cowboys, we're definitely at the part of the cycle where everybody's all aboard the train. People are looking at how good this defense is doing, how good Dak Prescott is doing. It's very impressive what we're seeing from Prescott so far, but I think it's fair to look at what the Cowboys have been doing in terms of who they're beating. Of their 8 wins, they beat down on Daniel Jones. They beat Zach Wilson, who's now benched. They defeated Mac Jones and the Patriots, who's now currently benched. They beat the 4-7 Chargers, who have the worst defense in the NFL. Then they beat the 5-6 Rams. Then they beat Tommy DeVito. Then they beat the worst team in the NFL, the Carolina Panthers. Now, where it gets a little bit concerning is they've only played 2 teams that are over 500, but currently they're 0-2 against them. but the Cowboys are going to have a huge opportunity these last 6 weeks to prove to everybody that they are a legit contender in the NFC. 5 out of their last 6 opponents are currently in the playoffs, and I think this is a great test for the Cowboys to see where they are and where they should be slotted in the NFC. Now, in the past, I've always felt like the Cowboys were good enough to beat down on bad teams, and they were good enough to get into the playoffs, but to never really take down the 49ers, Packers, and any of those teams that we've seen at the top of the NFC the past few years. But this year feels different. I think Dak Prescott is playing at one of the highest levels he's ever played at in his career. I think he's playing at an MVP caliber level, and if you combine that with Tony Pollard running the ball at a high level, this defense playing like a top 5 unit in the league, and Dak Prescott playing at an MVP level, the Dallas Cowboys are absolutely contenders in the NFC. I do think they're going to make some noise in the playoffs this year, and it wouldn't surprise me if they saw the Eagles in the playoffs. It wouldn't surprise me if they beat them on the road. I know, I may be overreacting here, but they're a division opponent. They will have already seen them twice this year, and anything can happen in the playoffs, especially against the divisional opponent. Do not let this Dallas Cowboys team heat up in this back half of their schedule. They're going to be very scary come playoff time. I'm Caden Kubler, and that's my take.